Now we're getting into the aftermath age, and there's quite a bit going on there as well. The Bible is so detailed, with very specific events that happen sequentially. And it's very important that we can use this as the biblical narrative and the prophetic perspective in these days when the fake news, the secular worldview, the censored social media is not helping us out. We need to know what God has to say, how we should live in these days and what we can expect to come, and especially the people who are going to go through the tribulation who get left behind. So let's talk about part 2 of Satan, his fate. Remember, it said he would be confined for 1,000 years and then he would be let go. Now during those 1,000 years he was conniving and figuring out ways he could come back and do what he does best, and that's deceive people and try to confront God. So we're told in Revelation 20 verses 8 through 10, now when the 1,000 years had expired, Satan will be released from his prison and go out to deceive the nations which are in the four corners of the earth, get that, worldwide, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, whose number is as the sand of the sea. We're not talking about a few rebels. We're talking about a lot of people after 1,000 years who got tired of being ruled with a rod of iron and judgment on the nations and rebuking them afar. They're done with it. And they're easy victims for Satan to deceive. They're as many as the sand as of the sea. They're throughout the whole breadth of the earth. And they come and they surround the camp of the saints and the beloved city, which would be Jerusalem. Now, God deals with this and says, and fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. The devil who deceives them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet already are, and they will be tormented day and night forever. So now, the unholy Trinity all end up together after the 1,000 years. This happens in the aftermath age. They're reunited, and the Antichrist and the false prophet have been in there burning for 1,000 years already. Now some people think that this Gog and Magog invasion is actually the same one of Ezekiel 38, but there are several reasons why that's not the case. I'm going to give you just a couple of them here. I put more in my book, The Millennium Prophecies. The battlefields are different. Ezekiel 39:2 and 38:16, this takes place on the mountains of Israel, but the Revelation 20 battle says the troops surround the camp of the saints and beloved city of Jerusalem. The defeats are different too. Ezekiel 38:19 through 22 predicts a great earthquake. Every man's sword will be against his brother, pestilence and bloodshed, flooding rain and great hailstorm, fire and brimstone. But Revelation 20 simply talks about fire coming down from God. The troops are different. Ezekiel 38:2 through 7 identifies a limited group of localized Muslim nations led by Russia that invade the north. Revelation 20 speaks about an international army whose number is as the sand of sea from nations that are at the remote four quarters of the earth. So we've got different troops. The leaders of the invasion, 38 verses 2 through 11 says it's Gog of Magog. We would believe that's probably the leader of Russia, most of us would say. But in Revelation 20, it's clearly Satan, released from the abyss, who leads them, not Gog. Just a couple more. The timing of the weapons burning. Ezekiel 39:9 says that after the Gog and Magog invaders are destroyed, that they will be burning weapons for 7 years. It emphasizes the weapons supply can provide fuel to burn for 7 years. But shortly after the second Magog prophecy concludes, the one on Revelation 20, what happens is, you're going to see in a minute, there's a white throne judgment that happens. And they're burning weapons for 7 years. And then the eternal order ensues quickly after that. So it seems like unlikely that weapons will be burning in these two aftermath scenarios, and we're about to get into those as we conclude. One last one I want to tell you. The timing of the regathering of Israel, this is an important clue. Ezekiel 38:8 points out that the Jews are regathered from the nations of the world into Israel. And we're experiencing that going on right now. That's been going on since 1948. In the millennium, there is no hint of another additional Jewish dispersion that would require another regathering. In other words, there's not going to be another dispersion diaspora with a need for restoration and regathering of the Jews. Not in the millennium. We have no hints of that. That's Revelation 20, verse 7:10, with the second Gog and Magog, happens over 1,000 years after Israel has been regathered. So I think we can pretty ixnay off them being the same Gog and Magog invasion.